We have a great group of women that are joining us that have really pioneered changes in the traditionally male-dominated industry, around coffee, wine, and dentistry. And our goal today is really inspire and enable each of you to go that extra mile when you didn't think it was possible. So I know some of you may be new to conscious capitalism, and I want to take a few minutes to just provide some context and background for you. First, by the way of introduction, I am Kathy Eastwood, Chair of Conscious Capitalism, New York City, and I'm joined by a number of my fellow board members, if you guys don't mind waving to the crowd. Conscious Capitalism, Inc. is a nonprofit organization whose purpose is to build a movement of business leaders improving the practice and perception of capitalism. We provide a framework to support business leaders while they elevate humanity through good, ethical, and noble business practices. Our belief is capitalism is good and it works, period. It's the power to positively change lives, and it's unparalleled. You think about all the great things that have happened as a result of it, like reducing poverty and child mortality, bringing literacy, education, art, and culture to people around the world. And ultimately, it's extended all of our life expectancy by years and years. However, on the flip side, we know we have a lot of work to do. We have allowed greed to step in, monopolies to take over, and a lot of companies are pressured to put shareholders first. So we all have our own personal reasons why we're here, but fundamentally, we all believe that there needs to be conscience to balance the capitalism, and all of us have a role to help improve things. So there's 4 core tenets of conscious capitalism. It was first created by Whole Foods founder John Mackey and Ron Sisodio, a university professor, and they wrote the book on conscious capitalism. And those 4 tenets are higher purpose, stakeholder orientation, conscious culture, and conscious leadership. So each quarter, we actually spend some time as a group helping provide CC 101 sessions that allow us to go into depth on each one of those core tenets. So we hope and you'll join us for future events as we go into depth on them. And our mission here in the New York City chapter is to build a thriving, sustainable community of individuals that are committed to drive business as a force of good in the New York City metropolitan area. This is through education, advocacy, and community building. And our vision is to connect, inspire, and activate conscious capitalists in our community with events like this one. So again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you to our speakers today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we can send you more information. So let me kick things off, and I would like to introduce Michelle Abo, who is moderating today's session. Michelle recently joined the New York City chapter of Conscious Capitalism as the chair of our newly formed corporate board. She's a native of New York City and is the chief sales officer of Barry House Coffee. She has over 30 years of executive, commercial, marketing, and operations management expertise in the consumer products, ingredients, and industrial sectors. I am very excited to have Michelle here, helping bring this event to fruition along with our other corporate board members. And so with that, let me turn things over to Michelle.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you for the lovely introduction. It's awesome, thank you. And thank you to everyone today for attending. We've got Carmen Stevens, and similar story, so we want to hear from her. But for centuries, winemaking and the business of wine has been a male-dominated industry, especially true in South Africa. And to this day, most winemakers, general managers, and owners of wineries are still white and male, regardless of where that wine region is found. And so not historically an easy situation for a woman, let alone a woman of color. But Carmen is the first woman of color who's been accepted after initially being refused due to the color of her skin to study winemaking, which again has been a traditionally male-dominated industry in South Africa. And over the course of 25 years, Carmen has overcome obstacle after obstacle on her journey, inspiring others to persevere, challenge the system, and redefine what is possible, or as Barbara would say, nothing's impossible. So with that, I'm just truly delighted, nominated by Robert Bradshaw, President and CEO of Cape Classics, on our corporate board, Carmen Stevens.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you, Robert, for the nomination. Wow, I am truly inspired by the previous talk speakers' work and what you are doing for women, especially. I was asked to share my journey into wine. I come from a background where my mother was a factory worker, and I had a learning problems at school, and to overcome that learning problems, my mother gave me novels to read, and in that novels, most of it, the settings was with wine or in a winery, and I was very, very young, and I remember saying to my mother one day, I'm going to be a winemaker. I don't think she ever realized it's actually going to turn out like that. So many years later, in my final school year, when I told her I'm now applying to the Institute to study winemaking, I think that's the first time that she realized that I was serious about this. I applied and I was refused based on my color, because I come from my parents got divorced when I was really young, and in the South African context, and I believe it's actually throughout the world, as soon as as soon as parents split up, the father becomes less involved in the upbringing of the children. So my mother was the main breadwinner, the main caregiver. And so when I was refused, I decided I'm going to find a job, because I knew that we anyway didn't have the money to go and study. So I found a job in Cape Town, which is about 30 minutes from where I lived, in a factory. And about 3 months into that, I realized it's just not going to pay that bill. So I went to my mother and I said, listen, the money that I'm saving, I would like to buy kids' clothes and shoes and sell it on Saturdays on Cape Town Station as an additional income for my studies. She agreed, and then Friday afternoons and Saturdays I would back off to the station and sell my goods on the station. Today, I think people will look at it and say, wow, you were a true entrepreneur. I don't think that word really existed or had that much impact then than it has now. Second year, I applied. Again, I was refused based on I didn't have any agriculture background, and also I didn't do military service in the South African Army. Again, my mother said, okay, what are you going to do? I said, no, I'm going to be a winemaker one day, and continued to work. I didn't have enough money yet anyway, so I thought I'll just go back and just continue. Applied for the third time, but in 1992, when I applied for the third time, I did an agriculture course through correspondence. And with that, I then reapplied, but this time I thought I'm not going to post. There was no emails then. Post my application. I took it in and I insisted to see the head of the college. Waited for an hour and I told him, this is my third application. I will not accept a no again. It was also the political changes in South Africa was really on stream at that point in time. And I promised him if they did not accept me, I'll go to the newspapers. So a month later, I got a letter that I was accepted into university to study winemaking. Wow, what a blow to my being. Going to a university that mainly we were only 5 girls, only guys, big white men that came out of military service that had a completely different view on people of color, that they were just not able to think. They were not able to be in the same room with me. It was the toughest years of my life. In my second year, it got so bad that I packed my mother gave me an ultimatum. She said, you pack your bags or I pack it for you. And again, I made a decision, I'll pack my bags, but I'm going to have my say. So the head of agriculture, Western Cape, South Africa, was based at the college. Made an appointment to see him, told him what happened, what was happening over the year and a half. And today, if I look back, I can kick myself for not taking that step earlier. Because the one thing that I've learned from that is not everybody thinks on the same wave. He might not have agreed with me being there, but he saw the bigger picture. And just that 2-hour talk with him and explaining to him what has been happening to me over the past year and a half changed my life for the better. Monday, he called assembly, and my life was just 100 times better. From there, I qualified in 95 as South Africa's first Black winemaker, irrespective of gender. And then I went to go and work. My last year, I got a bursary from the biggest wine company in South Africa, the Stellenbosch. And I went to go and work for them. My first job title was winemaker's assistant. The other white people that qualified, that also got jobs in the company, was called assistant winemakers. Today, I worked like a dog. Somebody once said, oh my God, they made you work like a dog. But today, if I look back, what was meant to probably convince me to leave the industry made me so determined, have placed me in a position where there's nothing in a cellar that I cannot do myself. I am a very practical, hands-on winemaker. I stand back for absolutely nobody in the cellar. I have an absolute belief that if I expect somebody to do something, I need to show them how to do it. I need to show them that I can do it myself as well. So that didn't break me. In 5 years, I worked for this company. They merged with another big company, and I applied for the job. Just a step back. In my third year, I was in the HR office one day, and now I'm working with different interns during harvest that I have to help, I have to assist, I have to tell them what to do. I'm in the HR office, and this young girl says, don't you want to hand out the salary slips for the month? And I say, sure, and she gives it to me, and she says, yes, just the interns. And I take it, and so I need to read their names, and it's an open thing, and I realize these guys are earning more money than what I'm earning as a qualified winemaker. Again, I took on the company. I said, this is not on. They had all kinds of excuses. I said, no, I just don't buy this. And they had to correct that. The company merged with another company. I applied for the job as a head winemaker in white wines. I was told I was not competent enough. I made a decision that if they think that I'm not competent, then I will wait for another 20 years and they will sing the same song. So on my interview, I said, thank you so much. I will be resigning. I was amazed. They didn't believe me. I resigned. The next day, the director came to me and said, you cannot resign. I said, no, I can. And he said, you are just confused and you are overwhelmed. You're going to the Netherlands tomorrow. When you come back, you'll have a new perspective. And I said, no, I'll go. I'll come back and I will resign. And I resigned. And I was offered the money for the position, but not the title. And again, I said, I refuse to take that. I know my worth and I'm moving on. And I got probably 2 weeks prior to that, where it was announced that I didn't get the job and they didn't think I'm competent, I got an opportunity with another company. So I called them up and said, I'm available if you still have that opening. They interviewed me and I got the job within an hour. And it really boosted my self-worth, because when I left that company, when I left Estelle, you judge yourself, you do introspect, and you think, am I really not capable? Am I really not worth it? And I remember that harvest season, because I resigned in December. I started January with this new company. January, our harvest season starts. And I was so afraid that I really didn't live up to what they expected from me, that I basically slept in the cellar. It was probably one of the best vintages I've ever had in my life. Worked with him for 5 years. In that 5 years, I worked with international winemakers that taught me the art of blending, that taught me that you look differently at wine, that taught me that you can have, you determine your style in the vineyard. You determine that in the vineyard, you can blend and how you can play with, and that was such a fantastic experience for me. 5 years down the line, I was offered a head winemaker position by an American couple that bought a small winery in South Africa. And they wanted somebody that understood wine. They came from a restaurant background, so didn't understand. And they guys said, if you take the job, you can do whatever you like. And what an amazing opportunity that somebody trusted me so much and just said, there's the cellar, take it and do with it as you please. And we made some remarkable wines while I was working for this company. And it really propelled me as a winemaker in the international market and stage as well. I worked for this couple for many, many years, and they were absolutely amazing, supported me in so many ways. And then in 2010, they made the decision to go back and sell off the farm. And it just so happened in that time, I was offered, if I make wines under my own label, a company in the UK will sell it. And I went to them, I said, I got this opportunity. And they said, you must take it. And for a year, they gave me their cellar space to make that wine in. And it started very, very small, and it just grew from there. So in 2011, I decided, I've got 2 girls. My girls are so privileged, and I come from such a poor background. I come from a background where on a Thursday night, you were lucky to have a slice of bread to eat. So I felt, in the community where I grew up, I want to start a small soup kitchen. And I said it will never be less than 300, but never more than 500, because it comes out of my own pocket, and I provided soup 3 times a week to children. Oops, I'm not sure. Yeah. And that grew over time. And in 2015, I got the opportunity to be in the UK, speak to the company that's selling my wines in the UK, told them what I'm doing, and they gave me a very small amount of money to assist me with the kitchen. And as a thank you note, I just sent back pictures and thank you notes from the schools, and they were so impressed. It's common, the people that's buying your wine in the UK, how would you feel if we tell them what you're doing and see if they don't want to chip in? It was an amazing success. We started, it was the Nation Day, and people donated to this cause, and I was blown away. That year we fed 3,060 learners, not just a cup of soup 3 times a week, but a breakfast and a lunch every day that they were at school. That grew to such an extent. In the year of COVID, we fed over 18,000 people. Today, we feed 25,531 learners in 125 schools. And the impact of that food on that child is mind-blowing. Ear infections, it has gone down. Interaction in the class has just accelerated. The result is better. Kids want to be at school. They see it as a safe haven. The impact, the interaction between teacher and child has improved. Children are partaking in sport more. They are punctual. They want to be there. So the impact is just absolutely mind-blowing. But that is on the NPO side. And I feel so strong about this because, you know, my background, my community, wine was always seen as a big no-go. It is a product that breaks up households. It's a product that lay people astray. Kids don't finish school. It has so many negative connotations to wine, and yet wine is the thing today that is helping me assisting these children to be better at school, to be the best at school, and to be a child without having to worry where is my next meal coming from. That's jumping the gun. In 2019, my winemaking business has grown to such an extent that I could open the first 100% Black-owned and woman-owned winery in South Africa. We are in a space where we can determine what happens next to the wine. We are in a space where I can be my creative self with my wines. As I said earlier, I'm a very active winemaker. I loved what I'm doing. And in the process, I have had 3 students that has worked with me, 3 students that I have managed to secure bursaries for, that they can finish their studies. One of my first interns is doing her master's this year. Again, I secured that funding for her. And having just people come in here and seeing what was previously perceived as a white domain, not just for a white male domain, but also white people. It was seen as a product for educated white people, is a product for anybody. In South Africa, if I was the first person of color to qualify as a winemaker, can you imagine there is so little Black people that's stakeholders in this industry. There's so little Black people that owns land. Less than 3% of agriculture wine is in the hands of Black people in South Africa. Yet it is those same Black people that's been working these vines and vineyards and cellars all these years that has built this industry to what it is today. And so I am a big I speak out on a lot of these issues, and it doesn't always serve me well. But I feel if it's not me, who else? And today I can say there is 67 Black-owned brands in South Africa. Our biggest challenge is that to get market share in our own country, to get market share where people say, I'll take your product and it will be on my shelves. It is route to market for a Black brand in South Africa is almost non-existent. And for that reason, a lot of the products are sold in the international market where people are more open to trying wines from Black people. And so we speak about buying consciously, not just the people in your area, but buying consciously Black-owned brands to help those Black-owned brands to get a footing in their own country, but also to get a footing in the market. As a woman in the wine industry, there's a lot of women in the wine industry. So people always say, you need to work 10 times harder. You need to justify yourself over and over. You have to show that you are worth it to be there. You need to show that you can stand your ground. You need to always think and approach people strategically. You need to, your compensation is always less. You always have to fight. That is for women. For Black women, it's ×3. And that for me is the sad part. I think that that we have to just over and over prove our worth is for me the saddest. But from where I'm sitting today, I am confident. Change is happening. It's happening slowly. But if we have more backing from more international players, if we have the backing from the people that says, you know what, I'll give it a try. It cannot hurt me to give a product a try. Then I think we will be able to get a better footing in our own country, and we will be recognized for the work that Black people has been doing in South Africa, in the South African wine industry. And that is my my story.
It's really an amazing journey, really fascinating, and we are so incredibly grateful for you not only sharing it with us, but you win the prize for furthest person calling in from South Africa. So we know there's a time, we know there's a huge time difference. So we are just incredibly grateful, and it's such a compelling story, and it's just amazing what you have just truly shown, that nothing is impossible, and what you've been able to do to be a true success in the industry. So thank you for sharing that with us. Open up for questions, but I have a quick question for the panel. It's kind of building up on what Dr. Kaur is saying. So Dr. Kaur with her organization is talking about elevating and empowering people in the industry. So I don't know if you can share anything, a specific instance or specific person that each one of you has mentored, another woman that you have mentored. I don't know if that's something you can share with us, but if you do have a specific situation, that's great, because I think, as Dr. Kaur said, it's important not only that individually succeeding, but setting the future or helping future leaders or helping us elevate, other women. So Dr. Kaur, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, absolutely. So my entire life, I have been very fortunate to work around strong women. And we are celebrating Women History Month, but I feel history demands that we change the future. And we do need present help to change ourselves for future, but nonetheless, history demands that we can't live like that forever. So throughout, I got to work with one of the dental assistants. I was a clinician in that group, and she was dental assistant, recently divorced, came from very affluent family, and she was worked in political sector, and had so much more to her just being a dental assistant. But she was down on her knees, recently divorced. And she felt she needs to do something as dental assistant, go to dental hygiene school, and have that technical skill to get there. So I just saw there's more to her than just being an auxiliary staff member. So by the time I worked with her over 3 years, and she left that position as vice president of operations. And it was, what that mentoring took was for me to it's not always giving the answer, it's asking the right question. So when I asked her, is this really what you want? And was that a right question? Probably no. Then why do you want this? What is it that you're ultimately after? It was the lifestyle. I have 3 daughters. I want security. If I go and gain that skill, I will never have to worry about employment. Why do you think you lack something? You are a great communicator. That's something people don't have. So being a great communicator is a huge skill. A lot of times people so undervalue this, and they want to gain a technical skill. But a lot of these people with great technical skill are led by people with great communication skill. So once she understood that, she was master of trade, and now she has a great career, calls her hours, and living an amazing life.
Thank you. That's great. Carmen, any mentoring that you would like to share? Any specifics?
Thank you. Sorry, my mic was off. Yes, I think that if I could mentor, if I was in the position of mentoring, I would firstly say to girls, own your self-worth. A lot of people can put doubt in yourself about your own abilities. So the people that, and it's so, sometimes I think it's sad because I only take in girl interns. because I feel that it is the girls in our industry that doesn't get that opportunity. Girls qualify as winemakers in our industry, and it's very rare that they actually go into the field of winemaking. They go into a lab, they go into selling supplies. The opportunities are so limited for girls, and for that reason, I make it my mission that the interns that I take in, I equip them and I make them understand that you can only know your self-worth if you take on whatever comes to you. You take it on with both hands. You must embrace your work. It's not something that's handed to you on a plate. And if you're willing to work and you're willing to put in the effort, nobody can stand in your way. So my mentoring advice to young girls that I work with.
Great, thank you. Kimberly.
Yeah, I think because of the nature of the work that I've been involved in over so many years, it almost does like a sort of a cascade effect where we're working directly to shine the spotlight on women and empower women, and then they get to do the same thing because they see role models. So it's a way to start to, for myself, to be a role model and to work broadly to help uplift women, to shine the spotlight on the important work that they do, and then encourage them also to do the same.
Okay, great, thank you. So with that, we have about 10 minutes. So maybe we can open it up for questions to the attendees on the call. Okay, well, all right. Kathy, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a question as much of a kind of an observation as I was listening to everyone. So first of all, thank you all, because all of your stories have been so inspiring. You know, I've come from the tech industry where it is very male dominated. But what was very interesting as I was listening to all your stories is in the tech industry, there's not a lot of women, right? So we've been really trying to bring women in, give them the encouragement, make sure they're getting the education. For all three of your industries, it is in a lot of ways dominated by women that are under marginalized, right? And I love the term, the auxiliary staff and all of that, and what you're doing and being the advocates to make sure their voices are heard are just amazing. So, you know, I'm so glad you brought your stories forth, because we do all have to lift each other up, right? Because you have to work extremely hard. I think all three of you said it, and I'm watching everyone's head. Everyone's nodding like, yes, I get it. I feel it. I know it. But by providing platforms for everyone and putting that voice out, it's so important. So I just wanted to thank all of you on that.
Great, thank you. Anyone, any other questions? Yes, Amanda.
Yeah, so my question is for Carmen and Kimberly. If, listening to both of your stories, I've become more conscious of the businesses that I support and looking into, how they treat their employees, all of those things. Because I used to be an economics teacher, and I taught my students that you vote with your wallet. And so if we want to go into like our local stores or go online and order products from businesses that are doing similar work to you, Carmen, I think you mentioned it was 67, there are 67 Black-owned wineries in South Africa. How do I go about finding those? So is there a way that when I'm searching and looking that I want to support those businesses, that there's a term on a label or something like that that I can look for?
So thank you for that, Amanda. No, unfortunately, I think it is actually searching out those 67 by name. Unfortunately, a few of them do have agents in the USA, but it is, I don't think that anybody has ever thought to categorize it as such. And the reason for that is also to move away from that we are different.
Mhm.
You understand? We are just another product on the shelf. We don't want to be seen. As a matter of fact, a lot of the brands doesn't even want to be known as black owned brands because they feel it's putting them in a category where they are marginalized.
Mhm.
So what I can do is I know that there's quite a big group of this. Some of the group is going to the US in November, October. But I can maybe speak to Robert and see how we can get the names out into to you or to whoever is interested in knowing who those brands are.
Mhm.
And Kimberly, with coffee, is there anything similar? Or is it kind of, it's not an easy way to detect certain businesses to support?
Yeah, yeah. There's gotten to be kind of label fatigue in the coffee sector. I would say a lot of companies are, not Berry House, but some companies are resistant to putting labels on their packages, and I think that's the challenge of the moment. That especially with gender equity, there isn't a label. And so I think it's incumbent on the consumer, both the business and the consumer, to ask the questions, right? So Berry House, for example, and not only ask the questions, but also advocate, right? So Michelle's saying when she's out talking to her customers, talks about the importance of gender equity, then customers going into those stores also put your money where your mouth is, as an economics teacher, or just a caring consumer, a caring person. Conscious capitalism is all about how do we make the right choices, and it comes by individuals asking questions to really kind of get start a sort of a movement towards greater equity, and both racial equity and gender equity, and all fairness up and down the supply chains, and globally, is I think what we all know creates more peace, a more peaceful and prosperous world.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I come in again? One of the movements or one of the projects that we are doing in South Africa is actually to say to people in our communities is when you do enter a restaurant or when you do enter a shop where wines are sold, you ask, do you have any black-owned brands? And if you don't, move on to the next one, because that's the only way that we find that we're going to get in our country that space. And I think that actually is true for any product. If you want to support a specific product, if you want to support women in coffee, you need to ask the question, do you have a woman supplier of coffee? Do you have a woman supplier of wine? I think that's very important. The other thing that I'm not sure that I mentioned earlier is that of these 67 black-owned brands in South Africa, I think about 70% of them are woman-owned. It is the woman that is driving this change in our industry, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I think that I'm not sure how you would bring that message across to the normal consumer that that it is woman owned, that it is black owned, and you can't really put that on a label. So the only way that I see around that is to consciously ask for that. And that is how you make a difference.
I just wanted to go back to what Dr. Kaur was saying about how the challenge of feeling isolated. So it's obviously important to empower women and to remove the gender bias, as Kimberly was saying, and equal pay and helping women succeed. But there's just the good business sense of the fact that when you hire employees, whether they're women, whether they're people of color, whatever it is, that if they're feeling isolated, they're going to derail, and that's just bad for any business. And I shared with Kimberly and her team last week when they presented to my team that when I started my journey as a chemical engineer, which was a long time ago, on my first day of work, fresh out of college, all wide-eyed and excited that my boss, who was not much older than me, said, well, we know we're here at a plant. We know as a female, it's a very mechanically oriented job. You're at a disadvantage. That was a long time ago. No one would say that now, but people might still think that. And so the point is that that's just a huge derailer to any employee. So it's just good business practice. It's not, it's empowering women, great, but it's just good business practice for inclusion. And I think, whatever that inclusion means, whatever the gender is, the background, the sexual orientation, it's important that people feel included, because then they will succeed as employees. So any other questions?
Michelle, I have a comment just to
Sure.
follow your comment. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
I think as we're approaching the end of this call, something I've heard over and over in my career is people will say, I am gender new. I don't see gender. I don't care. I honestly think it's a cop-out. See the gender. Women need different kind of attention. They are going to have different personal needs. They are going to have families. They will put in front of you things. See the gender. See the race. We have to have diversity in thought. We have to have, that's what it's about, because these conversations shouldn't be this uncomfortable. And we have made them very, very uncomfortable because it has become a diversity quota. It has become almost people want that easy button and say, okay, I just need to hire diverse leadership group. Let me find this person is, a little bit diverse. Let's hire them. That's not the way to go about it. It's like, you have to be intentional about it. Why do you want it? Because it represents our communities we are serving. It represents our workforce we are employing, and we want to see them closely. And I find those things cop out. And I really encourage people who are listening and who are in leadership positions, please don't hide behind it. Take a note of it.
And celebrate the differences. Celebrate the
Yes.
differences, because not everyone communicates the same way, but by having a diverse group of employees, it's representative of our population. So it just is better business practice, isn't it?
Yeah. I just want to jump in and applaud that last comment, because that to me is really key. I agree. It is a cop-out to say, I don't see any gender, I don't see any color, when it's staring at you right in the face. And I think accepting is a more progressive act than generalizing all people into one mosh pit of humans. So yeah, thank you for that comment. I appreciate you.
Bravo.
My pleasure.
So we are out of time. I just do want to mention I am extremely mechanically oriented, by the way, but that's for another time. But I want to thank Kimberly, Carmen, may I call you Aman, Dr. Kaur?
Yes, please.
I want to thank all three of you for spending time today. I want to thank the assembled group here for sharing their lunch hour, if they're in the eastern part of the US, or their breakfast hour if they're on the west, or dinner or later if they're in South Africa. But I also want to thank Robert and Michael for nominating and securing Carmen and Aman to join us today. Kimberly, thank you. It's a pleasure to work with you and your team. Great thanks to the Conscious Capitalism NYC group. Kathy, Amanda, thank you for that. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for letting me moderate my first gig with Conscious Capitalism. So I'm just very grateful. And thanks everyone. Stay safe, and we hope to see you at future events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Much appreciated.
Bye.
Thank you, Doctor.